Ready for the video?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Damn me up.
% were self-employed. So
That's a big
whether he
number.
may be
Wow.
selling 5 kilograms of vegetable, lively, healthy child, these are terrible things. But these terrible things
Wow.
are happening because populations are large.
I think he's right also in the second half. I think he's really right with the whole…
Present practice. What's conscious? This is Vish and
Hassan,
and today we'll be responding to Sadhguru's video on
supporting entrepreneurship in developing nations.
I'm an aspiring yogi and I've been meditating for over 4 years now. Love all things meditation, yoga, and wisdom based. And today I'm grateful to have Hassan with me here. Want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, name's Hassan. I run a fintech company in Palo Alto called Vibez, and yeah.
Before we start, have you heard of Sadhguru before?
Briefly, you've mentioned it, but not too familiar with it.
Well, let's get into the video.
Let's do it.
I'm sure there are many budding entrepreneurs that are in this room. What's your advice to them to start new businesses, increase the levels of employment for the 50% unemployed youth that we have in our country, and grow our economy so that everybody can be more prosperous, 1% or not?
There are many things that need to be done, there's no one particular thing. But entrepreneurship is something that needs a certain psychological ecology of its own. You will see those youth who come from business families so effortlessly create businesses. Those who don't come from that ecosystem, they struggle and they can't figure it out. It's not lack of intelligence, it is lack of experience and exposure. So I would say one of the things is the youth who are wanting to do something, I'm sure there are many of them, if some kind of selection can be made and they're exposed to enterprises in similar conditions. Let's say in rural India, how people… any number of enterprise. India is a land of enterprise because till 2000, only 3% of Indians were employed, 97% were self-employed. So
That's a big
whether he
number.
may be
Wow.
selling 5 kilograms of vegetable or fruit or maybe a very large billion-dollar business, it doesn't matter. Even he understands how to do business, where he has to position himself, what he has to say, what he should not say. These are simple things, but till you're in it, you don't learn. So, learning this experience, not necessarily from the public, but there are institutes and institutions in India which can teach entrepreneurship. We ourselves in Isha are starting a leadership academy in Bangalore city, where youth from…
So far, Hassan, I know we were just halfway through the video, but what are your thoughts on what he's saying, and do you think entrepreneurship can be taught, and what are your general thoughts?
I think he's really right with the whole perspective thing. I think a lot of people who come from business backgrounds or families from business backgrounds do it effortlessly because it's not really based on intelligence or grit. It's really just understanding on how to do it. Even with startups, a lot of people who want to start companies don't even understand how to go about raising funds and what those fund structures look like. So honestly, it's spot on.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing. Quick insight for you. I think Sadhguru himself, before he got into this whole, or at least before he became more of a spiritual leader kind of guy, he actually was a successful businessman, is what they say. So maybe that's why he's able to give you some, or share some cool insight. But yeah, let's get back into it.
These countries can come and get exposed to variety of enterprise. I mean, the incredible thing right now in India is, the variety of enterprise is unbelievable. When you go for so much enterprise, some of them will fail, so it needs a net to hold them so that they don't fall back onto the street or hang from a tree, which is unfortunately happening here and there. But it is time to do that because we have chosen market economy. There is no other way than to unbridled enterprise. Is it the best thing? I'm saying no. But right now, to get people out of their poverty situations, to make sure everybody eats. When I say everybody eats, in India it's very true, I'm sure here also to some extent, but wherever I go, in any country, first thing I see is what's the condition of the children. I find, to my joy, the condition of the South African children is way better than the conditions of the Indian children in rural India. It's a very good thing to see. At least they're better nourished for whatever reason. In India, this is true, that a child has to go to school and spend 8 hours there, but he has not eaten what he needs to eat to stay alert for these 8 hours and grasp whatever he's supposed to grasp. A farmer goes to his field and he's not eaten what he should eat to do that hard task of, farming. Or a pregnant woman has not eaten what she should eat to produce a lively, healthy child. These are terrible things. But these terrible things are happening because populations are large and we are not able to create a social net. So this is why this corporate social responsibility was brought in, but people find ways to use this money in so many different ways, that's another matter. But social net has to happen. But the danger of social nets is always about destroying the work culture and breeding lethargy. This is something the administrators have to carefully… I would say it needs a certain level of heartlessness where tough decisions have to be made. People are suffering, but still you make tough decisions so that long term it works out well for you. That today you start doling out food to everybody, you will see, if you want to destroy a nation, you don't have to bomb it, you just destroy its work culture, it's finished.
So Hassan, coming from the startup business / entrepreneurial background that you have, as well as technology, would love to get your insight on what you've seen so far. What are your thoughts?
I think he's right also in the second half. Like a lot of… So like there's two economic policies, I guess you could say, are like somewhat different. You can have like a completely open market society, and then you can also have a society that's completely closed market, and there's all this like social structure that he's talked about. Some criticisms towards like more socialist countries have faced that. But I think that the way he talks about how you have to balance both the brutality of people failing and then also making them non-lethargic, but also giving them enough space to take risks so they can build more efficient businesses and end up supplying growing nations. I think, yeah, what he talked about and what he like struggled with on those two sides makes sense. So I agree.
Well, thanks for sharing, Hassan. That's definitely great insight that you shared and connected with. I also would say I pretty much agree quite a bit with what you've shared. Definitely don't have the extensive background with this stuff that you do, so I'm glad to see that you did resonate. Mm-hmm. Was there anything from the video or him that you disagreed with, or that wasn't too clear?
Mm-hmm.
And it's fine if there wasn't much.
I'm trying to think. I think the way he talked about the duality of it was a little, like it had me a little confused. Like I had to listen a lot closer because I wasn't 100% understanding what he was comparing until like the very end.
So it took some time for him to connect the dots?
Well, for me to connect the dots of what he was saying.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I will say that's a great point you mentioned as well, because a lot of the times, at least from the way he talks and the way he provides answers about these quote-unquote deep topics, maybe this isn't as deep as what's the point of life type of thing, right? But I think the key here is to observe two things about him. One is he tends to take different approaches for answering just questions in general, so he doesn't take a single approach. I think it's important to understand why. I think the key for that is he feels that people have different levels of awareness, and so people are receptive to different answers at different levels in different formats. So for example, I'm sure you've heard and like just even like, let's just say religious stories, for example, they tend to be in the form of like stories and whatever, things like that, which make it easy to remember. And so I think that would be different from, as a polar opposite, let's just say a research article. But again, you wouldn't be giving the two exact same things. Let's say they're talking about the same thing, but you wouldn't give those two same things to the same, okay. The point I'm making is different people receive in different ways, right? So it's important to adjust accordingly with how you present and how you deliver. So yeah, that's the first thing. The second thing is that with regards to a lot of these deep questions, quick question for you actually, because he has gotten this criticism. So I think it's fair to have criticism as well as to be critical with what you hear. So I think it's super super important for anyone, right? Don't believe in anyone blindly. Until you experience something yourself, be open. Don't be suspicious, but try to be critical, but then be open-minded, right? But anyways, the point I'm making here is if I were to ask you the question of, let's just say honey. Have you ever had honey before?
Yeah, I've had honey before.
Okay. So would you agree that if you were to, let's say, write a PhD on honey, read all the articles of honey, and then watch all these videos on honey, and then hear all the stories about honey, that all of those things will not do it justice to the experience of tasting honey?
No, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah, so I think the same principle applies to a lot of these maybe esoteric spiritual things, because a lot of the times people, are easily dismissing what is being said because they don't experience it, and then they just say that it doesn't make sense. Or point I'm making here is that I think the key with a lot of these spiritual things is that it needs to be experienced, and until you experience it, I wouldn't recommend the dismissal route. What do you think?
No, I mean, you should not, if you don't immediately understand something, dismiss it.
Would you say, because I feel like, and you have a really great scientific background as well, would you say that, and I feel like I've noticed this too, a lot of people in this background community tend to be super dismissive about things that they don't know about? For example, just something, right? Something comes up and they're like, oh, there's no way that's true. Science doesn't back it up. Don't you think that's also not the best way to go when you dismiss things without knowing?
I think so, yeah. There's like a saying, it's like the evidence is the evidence is the reader's problem, something like that. It's a common said phrase.
What does that mean?
It means that like a lot of writers can make claims, and it's questionable if they have to provide evidence, but a lot of the evidence should be left up to the reader. Like, you have to search for why this answer is right.
I love that perspective. So, yeah, Hassan, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you sharing this insight about entrepreneurship. And again, as y'all could tell, I really didn't share much insight in that space because I just don't have much experience there. But yeah, super grateful for you to be here. Again, don't forget to check him out. All of his stuff will be down below. And if you have any other video reaction requests, you can also comment down below. With that, make a great day, take it joyful, and stay conscious. Awesome job, Hassan. You did great.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Thanks, man.